was captured in December after his plane crashed in Syria. The tape comes just days after ISIS beheaded a Japanese journalist. Jordan's King Abdullah is in the U.S. right now and is headed to the White House soon to meet with President Obama. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has seen the video, and she joins us now. Catherine, can you tell us about the day's events?
Well, thank you, Dana. This video is really a departure from previous ISIS propaganda, in part because of its length. It's 22 minutes long, and also because it's so highly produced. And what I mean by that is that there are clear video overlays, audio overlays. There are multiple camera angles used. The pilot is filmed. It looks like different areas around the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa. And this would have taken many days to compile. The final section is this 5-minute section, which I think we've discussed at length here on the channel, where the pilot is burned to death. He's wearing an orange jumpsuit, like synonymous with Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib prison. If you look closely, you can see that it's damp. Based on the video, it appears to me that some sort of accelerant had been poured on the pilot, and then the flame is lit. You see it going along sort of the desert landscape and into the cage. I've seen all of these videos. This is particularly horrific because you see the pilot sort of grab his skull in pain, and the screams are sort of a very base, sort of primal type scream of anger as he sort of collapses to his knees. So this is meant to incite. Also, based on the graphics in the video, it's meant to send a message to the other Gulf nations that are somewhat on the fringes of the coalition that they should stay out, but in fact we may see it has the opposite effect, Dana.
Well, we appreciate that you watch the videos and bear witness to them. For those of us who don't watch them, we do appreciate that. Greg, you have a question?
Yeah, what does it tell you about kind of the fruitlessness of negotiating when they were demanding an exchange from Jordan, but the chip that they were using, they had already killed. So is this just some kind of sham to jerk these people around? Was that it?
I'm glad you raised that. It was described to me very early on that this seemed to be an episode where ISIS was playing chess and not checkers. They had really carefully staged, managed this whole event. And I think the most important data point came from the spokesman with the Jordanian military today, that the pilot had been, in his words, assassinated back on January 3rd. And actually in the last few minutes, I've received from one of my counterterrorism contacts a series of tweets that are from December 24th, which describe what appears to be the pilot in a cage on one of the traffic circles in the capital of Raqqa. So really, in very simple terms, to bottom line it, what's played out over the last 10 days has really been a charade. The pilot had been killed weeks ago, and I believe we may well learn that the Japanese hostages were also executed some time ago, because in the video released over the weekend, you probably noted, Greg, there were absolutely no references to the $200 million ransom demand, the al-Qaeda suicide bomber in Jordanian custody that they wanted to swap the pilot for, or any of the others. So I believe this was done some time ago.
Kimberly?
So, Catherine, they were obviously trying to also accomplish some kind of proof of life so they could determine, in fact, probably they had intelligence reports that, in fact, these executions had already occurred. But nevertheless, they offered up this swap of the female suicide bomber. What do you expect and anticipate the next steps of King Abdullah of Jordan will be? Do you believe that they will execute her?
Well, there are multiple media sources coming out of the region, Kimberly, that indicate that this al-Qaeda suicide bomber, she was part of this plot back in 2005, what the Jordanians called their 9/11, where they attacked multiple resort hotels and they killed more than 60 people. She has been on death row since, and the reporting tonight is that she has been moved off death row with possibly 2 other ISIS prisoners, and they will be executed at dawn. So the Jordanians are holding true to their statement immediately after the video that they would stand united and that they would retaliate for the murder of the pilot.
Catherine's Bowling. So I've seen all the prior videos. I happen not to see this one. I understand it ends differently than the others. The beheadings, you see the picture of the victim laying on the ground with the head on their back. This one, I understand, ends with the ISIS I believe the terrorists burying the victim in rubble. I'm wondering if this has any significance because this guy is Muslim. Did they treat this differently? Did they treat a burial?
That's a great observation. I hadn't really even considered that, but that would be consistent with an immediate burial. That's correct.
Just can I ask you this? I did understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the Muslim faith or in Islam, you can't burn a body dead or alive or dead. So maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to put a couple of pieces together here. I think there's going to be a huge, massive outrage within the Muslim community, though.
What I can tell you, having seen this video, is that it's clearly an escalation. And as bad as the decapitations were, this really goes to a whole new level with the degree of human suffering. I mean, I can't really describe it any other way. I kept thinking when I saw the video today about the people on 9/11 who jumped from the top of the World Trade Center, the jumpers, who decided that they would rather plunge to their death than be burned alive, because one of our most basic instincts is to avoid high temperatures and flames. So to take this individual and to place him in a cage where there was no way out for him and then to burn him alive in that manner really goes to a whole new level.
Yeah, you said something about that may have the reverse effect, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, if Eric's right, and I think that is right, that they've broken the Muslim traditions, I would imagine finally the Muslim countries will say enough. Enough is enough, and they may join the coalition. Those are out. Any chance that's possible?
It's entirely possible. I don't really want to speculate because I don't know. I think a lot is a very fluid situation, and much is going to unfold in the next 12 to 24 hours if the Jordanians follow through on their threat to kill the al-Qaeda suicide bomber. But what seems very clear to me is that when you sort of unpack the killing of the Jordanian pilot, the murder of these two Japanese hostages, this, without question, increased the risk for the handful of remaining hostages, which we understand to include at least one American and also a European woman.
I know I've got to let you go, but can I ask you one last question? Because I'm going to take the opposite position of Bob and ask you this question, which is, it could have the effect of actually hurting our efforts to get Jordan to continue to work with us. It's one of the reasons that King of Jordan is going to the White House tonight, is to say, I need more support from you if I am going to keep my country in a position of helping the United States beat back ISIS, because the father of the pilot that was killed is part of a large tribe in southern Jordan who said, this is not our fight. We shouldn't be fighting the Americans' fight. So isn't it just as likely that we are going to be in a position of having to then again try to find another way to fight this war?
The readout of that meeting tonight will be especially important because you raise a very important issue, Dana, that many people have missed, which is that this has sort of a tribal element to it as well. And the question has been whether ISIS may have bitten off more than it could chew by taking on the tribes as well. But they've put their cards on the table. They are, to use a cliche, they are all in here. And again, I would emphasize that when you look at the video, it's absolutely clear that this took days to compile. This was part of a broader media strategy, and that they really had no intent to negotiate in goodwill for the swap of that hostage, which is why Jordan was so adamant about the proof of life. This all now makes sense, because for the last month, the pilot has been dead, and they believe that was the case.
All right, Catherine, you can use a cliche with us anytime. Greg will not give you a hard time. You don't have to worry about that.
I don't want to make that list of his. I really could not.
It's a long list. I'm on it several times.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
all right,
Catherine.
Thank you.
We're going to keep talking about this, and we want to show you, just replay some sound from the Today Show interview with President Obama about ISIS, and we'll talk about that.